Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Midweek with Meaning. I'm grateful that you're joining me today, either live or via replay. This is Angela Ward. I'm a registered nurse and transformational coach, and I am here to just hopefully share some insight to give you things to contemplate during this week. If you're watching live, please say hello, put some comments in the chat, give me some thumbs up, some hearts and likes so I know that you're here. Or if you're watching replay, please put replay in the comments. And I do read whatever you post. So please, if you post something, know that I intend to respond to you. So thank you for joining. So if you're watching on Facebook, please make sure to give StreamYard permission so I can see who you are while you're watching. And if you're watching on one of the other platforms, then, I can see you. I can just see you. So my hair's looking fuzzy today. Look at this. Ugh, the weather has changed. So, my loves, I want to talk to you about something after I fix, what's this piece right here? Is it here? What is going on? There's something I've been hearing a lot of lately that I'd really like to talk with you about, and that is confusion. I want to talk about that experience of being confused. Where do we want to begin? Confusion, I believe, is an important coping strategy, but one that can really get pathological in a way and how we relate to the world. So we have lived in very confusing times lately. Uh, all the information that we get politically or medically, like there's such a huge range of information out there that it can be very challenging to be discerning. And we may be told one thing one day and another thing another day, which obviously leads us to real not clarity about what the right thing is for us to choose. The reason that I've really wanted to discuss this, however, is because this is coming up a lot, not only in the ketamine assisted therapy work that I do with my clients, but also in just kind of regular day-to-day experiences. When we are working with ketamine or with other classical psychedelics, one of the things that they are believed to do is to quiet what we understand to be called the default mode network. The default mode network is the part of our brain that is responsible for daydreaming, for future tripping, for remembering things in the past, for being able to hold planning and things like that. And it's our kind of baseline way of being in our brain. And it's a wonderful place to be, but it can get pathologized when we become so linked to our default mode network that we cannot think any differently. And I believe that as a culture, we're very challenged to allow an ability to think outside of this default mode. When we're in ketamine space with my clients, ketamine softens that thinking pattern. It kind of makes it so it's challenging for people to plan, to remember, memory formation right in that space. It softens, and it's really wonderful when that happens because it tells me that the standard way of thinking with my clients is shifting. It's softening. There's room to now think in different ways in that ketamine space. But oftentimes, when people are unfamiliar with ketamine, maybe their first or second time working with it, when we hit that place of confusion, it can be very disturbing. Meaning, it can be the confusion is what hooks people. The lack of certainty can make people really kind of keep grabbing on to trying to figure it out. People will try to latch on to wait, how did I get here? What's going on? What's happening? Rather than allowing themselves to be present with the experience that's happening in the moment. And that's really apparent when we're working with something like ketamine. But it's also super apparent when I'm working with my clients and we're doing some mindset shifts. It even happens for me when I'm starting to hit a place where I might be on the cusp of being able to think in a different way, confusion comes right in. Or if there's a client I'm working with and we're getting to this edge of changing our thought patterns, like something's ready to shift, and then this kind of wall comes up and it shows confusion. Part of it is because we might be addressing some paradox that people carry. One of the wonderful things about working with psychedelic medicines, particularly, is it allows a greater capacity for uh, being able to sit with paradox, right? To be able to sit with this belief on one hand that we are all connected and everything is blah, and then the paradox of, and yet I am truly the master of my own ship and all alone in a way. That's just an example, let's say. Sitting with paradox can bring confusion because I believe our culture is very, especially in the United States or in the Western world, I imagine, we're very, very interested in certainty. We're very interested in how we know and how we figure stuff out. Like, what do we know and what is true right now? And if it's not true or accurate, then we need to figure it out. There is a component within our culture that has been lost, which is, I believe, being able to sit in paradox and sit with mystery and uncertainty. Now, I love my ability to bring clarity to my thoughts or having discernment or having some certainty about some things. And yet, I recognize that we just don't know. Really, we don't know really anything. Really, we have faith in things that the sun's going to come up tomorrow because it has every day of your life. It's come up the next day. Your heart's going to take another beat until it doesn't. We just have this faith in it, and it's evidence based, but there's no certainty, right? And that's okay. It's super okay to not have certainty, because what it does is it allows for creativity, I think. It really allows for us to have a chance to see what else is possible. I've been thinking about this because my husband and I, of course, have been talking a lot about um, vaccines and viruses and what does it mean as we're kind of moving into this time of the year. Are we certain that the vaccines are effective against COVID-19? Are we certain that opening spaces up is going to be safe? There's a lot of uncertainty, so it contributes to this sense of confusion. And then in that experience of confusion, what often happens, my husband likes to say, what happens in that confused space is people are often trying to figure out who they can blame. I think that's really insightful, because when we get into a confused space, it's like, well, wait, who's responsible for this? Or if I could just say that this person did this, then it might help me put myself in a position that I can relate to or understand where I stand. I've also seen this recently in one of my communities. There was a big article that came out discussing a practitioner's ethical behavior and critiquing it. And the conversation has become so enamored of the way that the story was put out there versus looking at whether or not the practices were ethical or unethical and our discomfort around the uncertainty of some of that. Instead, the community is kind of turned to blame the journalists and the way that the story was broken, rather than being in this like kind of uncertain, confusing muck. So, gosh, what do we do about being confused? First of all, I think it's really important to recognize that confusion is a mental state. It's mental, it's in your head. And it happens when we start getting these thoughts going, all of these thoughts spinning around. It's like a tornado. Or I've had the feeling of a tornado, but then also the kind of a feeling of fog. I don't know if anyone's experienced that feeling with confusion, that it's just like you can't even see what the next thing could be or the clarity. So In the marketing world, in the advertising and marketing world, I've been told that a confused mind always says no. And I believe that to be true all the time. If a confused mind always says no, what that means is not necessarily that we need to make, in the marketing world, they tell us we need to make our message more clear so it becomes an obvious yes. And I do think there's something to that. However, I also think there is a piece around allowing ourselves to feel confusion and to practice holding on to the core of ourselves in a confused state. What I mean by that is this is a mind training practice. In confusion, rather than defaulting to saying no, how can we invite in appreciation for the paradox? How can we invite in appreciation for the mystery of the uncertainty? How can we invite in a trust that although perhaps we are confused now, something may not be figure outable. I know there's that saying that everything is figure outable. Maybe some things aren't figure outable. Maybe they don't need to be figured out, right? Do we need to figure everything out? Maybe some of that confusion is really this intellectual uh, prioritization that we have such power of the mind that we can figure out the answer to everything. We are smart. I think humans are amazing and we're absolutely can figure stuff out. But yet, confusion and looping into that no place can be so disruptive. It's actually, I think, a bad habit many of us have. So if you've done any of the Disrupting the Disruptor course with me, this is one appearance of the disruptor, confusion about being able to make a decision. It is something that is blocking you from moving forward on your path. I think sometimes confusion shows up as sometimes confusion shows up when we know the answer and we're unwilling to admit it to ourselves or the people around us because we're holding paradox, right? Has anyone ever been in a situation where they've needed to break up with someone? Maybe you're in a relationship and it's really clear that it's not healthy for you. And yet the confusion sets in because you really love the person and that you've had really great times together and you've created a home together or you've done, all of the things. So you're holding this paradox, these really opposed feelings, and it just can make so much confusion. So there's a part of ourselves that I think is really discerning. And if you really listen, I think many of us know the answer in confusion. We do know. We do know. We just are unwilling to face the choice that we need to make because it's hard oftentimes. Another way the disruptor works, besides kind of quieting that internal knowing voice, that internal wisdom, is by being confused, we stop taking responsibility for ourselves and we stop taking responsibility for our actions. A lot of people, including myself, I have to work with this a lot, is we are afraid of making the wrong choice or making the wrong decision, right? Can I get an amen if anyone's ever had that? Like, I cannot fuck up. I cannot take a wrong step. I can't do anything wrong. So it can get really confusing about what to even do because of the concern of all the things that might happen. So sometimes even in that confusion, I think it's okay to take baby steps and try something. Bring in that sense of play about what it might feel like to just try it out. I would also really like to offer for you that if you're facing confusion, if you find yourself in confusion, some immediate steps you can do to stop it is to get out of your head. So do some of those pattern disruptors that I've taught you, we've talked about. Get the monkey off the wheel for a minute. Quit giving them stuff to swing on to. Just stop letting that thing spin for a minute. Go the hell outside, jump around for a minute, do some push-ups. You all know ways to do pattern disruption. So first, when you're in confusion, disrupt the pattern for a minute. And then allow the confusion is okay. It's super okay for you not to know anything. It's super okay for you not to know. And sometimes you can just point in the direction. Be like, okay. Another way you can work with confusion is to bring yourself back to your vision or goal for what you're looking for in your life or your day-to-day experience. If you're confused, come back, check into what your goal is and how you want to feel, and then make the choices from your confusion that lead you in the direction of that goal, into the direction of that feeling. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm happy to talk more about that if we need to clarify, but confusion is like this thing that clouds us. It just clouds us from taking a step. Another thing to recall when you're in confusion is oftentimes when you're in confusion, it's because you are ready to have a shift. Something's about ready to shift for you. You're ready to start thinking in a new way, because if you were not confused, you would be certain. And if something's coming up that's confusing you, it's because it's challenging your default mode network. It's challenging your status quo. And if your goal, if your vision of your life is to get out of the way that you're thinking or behaving right now, you have to remember that that confusion is really a positive sign in a way. You're about ready to go, pop, let's think a new way. Let's put a new pattern in. Let's put a new action in. So what else do I want to say about confusion? I think the things I want to reiterate is there is a lot of confusing things out there. It's okay to know nothing. It's okay to be in mystery. It's okay to not know things and to choose to learn them if you choose, but it's not the only, like, it's okay for mystery just to exist. I don't know if I completed my thought about when I was saying Jed and I were talking about the virus, but I think one of the things that I think is so difficult right now is we forget that we are animals living in nature. And the immersion, a virus coming out that could possibly kill many of us or not, whatever. We're looking for someone to blame. But the truth is, it is part of the mystery of being an animal in nature. And despite our cities, despite our furniture and our computers and lights and all that stuff, we're still animals. And mystery is still a part of what is it's still out there. It's still out there. There's things we just are not going to know. We're just not going to know them. We're just not. And how wonderful, right? How wonderful that there is mystery that we don't know yet. So allow yourself to be trusting in this mystery, in the mysterious process. Allow yourself to sink into paradox and feel the discomfort of paradox. It's okay to feel that, like, whoa, I feel two different ways. And it's confusing because you feel like you have to pick. Just relax for a moment. See if you can get out of your head, do a pattern disruptor, right? Disrupt your pattern, and then reorient to where you're trying to go with your goal and how you want to feel. Okay. How do you want to feel? And then make choices based on that. If you are confused, allow yourself to say yes to something. Allow yourself to say yes. With the idea of a confused mind always saying no, how can you settle into, I'm going to find a yes here, and just feel into it? So that's, I think, what I want to say about confusion for today. Um, just to reach back to how I began talking about ketamine assisted therapy and how ketamine will make people feel confused at first. That is such a rich territory when we're in there, because if when we start feeling confused, we can recognize this softening of this thought pattern, we can use that time to put in what we're looking for, the feeling you're going for, the beliefs that you wish to carry. We can do this anytime we're feeling confused. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions around this. Is anyone feeling confused right now after what I said? I hope not too confused. I hope you're feeling like if you are confused, it's going to be okay. You can be confused. I am so happy to stop in here today to talk with you about this. A few announcements. I would like to just invite you all to join us next Monday for a 10-day journaling challenge. So we're going to be running this free challenge. It's a way that you can get a little prompt for journaling every day. I've done some talks previously about the importance of creating space in your day for self-reflection and contemplation. Hello, Rachel. Yes, this is recorded and you can watch the replay as soon as we're done if you'd like. Nicole, if you're watching, can you pop the text in so you can text to, I think it's GG Journal to get registered for the upcoming 10-day journaling challenge. The intention of this challenge is to give you something every day to get you thinking. You can spend as little as 2 minutes contemplating it, or you can spend as long as you need. The intention is to give you plant a little seed to get you maybe in the practice of creating space in your day for self-reflection. This might also give you time to work with that confused experience that you have. If you feel confused, oh, here we go. Yeah, thank you, Nicole, for putting that. I'll put that on the screen so people can see it. Boop. There it is. There it is. So we'd love to have you invite your friends. It's just an opportunity for us all to get a little practice in of some mind training techniques so we can manage this confusion and we can find our way to heading the way we want to go. All right, loves, that is all for today. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking with you hopefully Monday for the journaling challenge. And if not, we'll see you next Wednesday for the Midweek with Meaning. All right, loves, bye.